Here.
Commissioner Marecki,
Here.
Commissioner Bejun, Commissioner Anderson,
Here.
Vice Chair Palomera,
Here.
Chair Varga.
Here.
You have a quorum present.
Thank you. Next item.
Item B, Chairwoman's remarks.
I have none. Next item.
Next item, item C, approval of the minutes of the August 25th, 2020 meeting.
So move, Madam Chair. Scott.
Moved by Commissioner Scott, supported by Commissioner Palomera. All in
Yep.
favor say aye.
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 Aye. Anyone opposed? I hear none. Motion carries. Next item.
Item D, unfinished business. There is none. And Commissioner Bejun just joined also.
Great.
Moving to item E1 of new business, requesting commission approval of budget adjustment 2020-35-186, reallocating expenditures in the county road fund.
Already. Self-explanatory. Any questions on item 1?
So moved.
Commissioner
Support.
Basali moves, supported by Commissioner Martha Scott. Please call the roll.
Commissioner Scott,
Yes.
Commissioner Baker McCormick,
Yes.
Commissioner Marecki,
Yes.
Commissioner Bejun,
Yes.
Commissioner Anderson,
Yes.
Vice Chair Palomera,
Yes.
Chair Varga.
Yes,
Motion carries.
thank you. Next item.
Item E2, requesting commission approval of budget adjustment 2020-35-196, certifying revenue in the county park fund.
Okay. State grant. Any questions on item 2?
I'll move approval. Marecki.
Support. Anderson.
It's been moved and supported. Any further discussion?
Just a
That's what-
quick question, Madam Chair.
Yes,
Anderson.
Commissioner Anderson.
I just wondered if there's anyone here for parks that didn't see if Mrs. Bradford is, but just to find out what their state grant is going to do.
Is anyone here from Parks? Or we'll have to get you.
Because I was going to mention, because the details are not something that someone that's watching the meeting would not be able to see, maybe an explanation might be good.
Yeah.
It says for improvements to the Hines Park and Arbor Trail connector.
Right. But I just wondered if someone could expound on that a little bit to tell us. Okay.
Madam Chair, Andrew Kendrivas here. I can try it again, Miss Bradford, if you want me to try to get her on the Zoom. I don't see her on here.
Okay. That's okay. It's rather than hold the meeting up. I just think sometimes it's beneficial that we think about what people at home that might be tuning in are not really seeing in front of them, like we have the notes. But the backup information we have, but it's not available for people to see that are joining the Zoom meeting. But anyway, I'll let it go, and maybe Andy, if you could possibly, well, I guess maybe by the full board meeting, have something that we can explain.
Could you please have her join us for full board so she can answer?
That'd be good. Thank you.
Madam
Please.
Chair.
Yes.
And we had this at COPS a couple of weeks ago, and I believe it was like for different, I don't want to speak for Alicia, but it was different things with the connector, and then I think they were doing different projects with bike racks and that type of thing. But yeah, she can explain more.
Yeah, I remember
Because there were
that
a couple grants.
discussion. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll make sure that Andy gets her to full board, so I will call on her when we come to this item, when I'm called upon to approve Ways and Means agenda.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you. Do I have a motion?
So moved, Madam Chair. Scott.
Yeah, I had moved it.
We have
Yeah.
a motion.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
Terry
Terry.
moved it. Commissioner
well, then
Scott, you support it?
I'll support it.
Okay. Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Scott,
Yes.
Commissioner Baker McCormick, Commissioner Baker McCormick,
Yes.
Commissioner Marecki,
Yes.
Commissioner Baydun,
Yes.
Commissioner Anderson,
Yes.
Vice Chair Palmera,
Yes.
Chair Varga,
Yes.
motion carries. Next item, item F, such other matters as may be properly submitted before the committee.
I don't have any of the committee members have any other such matters that you'd like to talk about? Mark Abbo, do you have anything?
No, Madam Chair, I do not.
Okay. Alrighty, then we'll go on to the next item.
Item G, public comments.
Would you, Madam Clerk, unmute everyone?
Everyone has been unmuted and I have not received any.
Okay. Anyone from the public wishing to comment? Anyone from the public wishing to comment? I hear none, but I will ask one more time. Anyone from the public? Someone wishing to comment? Okay, I hear none. Next item.
Item H, adjournment.
So moved, Madam Chair.
Support Anderson.
Alrighty. Please be sure to stay here because we're going to start our budget meeting. This part is all in favor, say aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. We are done with the Ways and Means budget. We can start our budget hearings. I'll give the clerk some time to put the information up on the screen.
Can everyone see the budget hearing agenda?
Yes,
Thank you.
if you could scroll up just a little bit.
Mhm. Yeah, that's good. Mhm.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Item 1, roll call.
Commissioner Scott,
Present.
Commissioner Baker McCormick,
Present.
Commissioner Marecki,
Here.
Commissioner Baydun,
Here.
Commissioner Anderson,
Yes, here.
Vice Chair Palmera,
Here.
Chair Varga.
Here.
We have a quorum present.
Thank you. I have no remarks. We'll start the budget presentation. Mr. Abbo, you want to start it off?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Today, we have two departments that we're going to be speaking with. The first one will be Corporation Counsel, and the second one will be Senior Services. So with that, I will turn it over to the representative from Corporation Counsel.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Can you all hear me?
Good
Yes.
afternoon.
All right. Cheryl Jordan, Deputy Corporation Counsel. I'm sitting in for Corporation Counsel James Heath, and would like everyone, at least on this call, to know that James's father, James Heath Sr., did pass away over the weekend.
Oh,
And
wow.
so I'm sitting in for him, and so we obviously are sending his condolences, and I wanted to make sure you all knew that's why he's not here today. So
Thank you. We will keep him in our prayers.
Yeah.
Cheryl, would you pass along the information that we could send cards? If you wanted to?
absolutely, I'm still waiting on those details, but as soon as I get it, I'll send it along.
Was it local? Is he
Yeah.
local?
Yes, he was. In fact, he lived in the house with James Heath,
Oh.
with our Corporation Counsel. He was caring for him over the last at least year or so.
Wow.
So these last few months have been pretty hectic with COVID and everything else being the way it is, and then him dealing with this on top of it. So
Thank you.
Cheryl, before you begin, I just want to acknowledge that our chair of the Wake County Commission has joined us. And I would like to give her an opportunity to talk to us if she wishes to. Commissioner Bell?
Good afternoon. I just wanted to listen in, and if I have any questions, I'll certainly chime in at the appropriate time. Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Welcome. Sure. All right, Cheryl, go ahead and you may begin.
okay, so as in previous years, this budget does include the Department of Human Relations, Equity, and Inclusion. And so there's actually 3 different parts to this one this year. There's Corporation Counsel, what you all know as the lawyers and the paralegals that handle the matters, represent elected officials and departments to advise them in their day-to-day operations and legal questions that they have, as well as handling in-house litigation filed against us. And in some cases, filing litigation against other entities, not as much, but we do that as well. And as you know, Human Relations, doing our fair employment practices, and those that division is charter mandated. It's important to point out that actually Human Relations and Corporation Counsel, we did decrease our budget by quite a lot this year because of COVID and because of some other things affecting our projected revenue collections. We really were put to task by management and budget this year, and we were asked to make cuts as much as possible. And we actually did that. While it's not shown in this budget, when you see the overall numbers, it looks like it increased. I want to tell you the reason why it looks like it increased there is because we got approximately 1.3, I believe, allocated, or 1.6 altogether for an Office of Public Defense Services, which we've rested here in this budget, but it's not been formed all the way. And so I'll probably be asked questions about that at the end, but I kind of want to just make sure you understand that's why it shows an increase overall in the budget for Corporation Counsel. When you look at the actual broken down numbers, you'll see that for salaries and fringes and all other items for Corporation Counsel and Human Relations, those actually did decrease by over $500,000 this year. But the increase that you're seeing is this grant-funded Michigan Indigent Defense Commission grant funds for the Office of Public Defender Services. Other than that, Corporation Counsel and Human Relations were just busy as ever. I want to say that one good thing about our department is we found that we're very productive working remotely. Lawyers, we have the ability to look up cases online. We draft our documents. We do our calls, and now all the court hearings are being held via Zoom as well. And so we've been just as busy, if not more busy, since COVID and the remote working situation has happened. I found that my lawyers are available day, night, weekend. I want to say even more than pre-COVID. Because everyone has been really a team player in chipping in to show, we're here to do our job whenever it's necessary. And generally that's the overview. No real big changes other than the Office of Public Defender Services, which I'm sure you have questions about, and I'm happy to take.
Madam Chair, I had a question. This is Commissioner Baker McCormick.
I was on mute. Yes,
Oh.
I was asking, when will that be up and running?
So far for the Office of Public Defender Services, we've hired a director. Her name is Robin Dillard. She's been on board for just a few weeks now. And they have laid out, I think, 8 other positions not yet hired. And there's been an ongoing discussion with the commission staff, with the administration, and I believe with Chair Bell, not me personally, but again, I'm sitting in for James today, to discuss what the best form of the public defender services is and where is the best place to put it. And the Corporation Counsel has been handling all the MIDC grant and matters and dealings with the Third Circuit Court, but Corporation Counsel by charter, we are designated to be the civil lawyers. And we've got our prosecutor's office, that's a criminal, and now we're going to have this Office of Public Defender, and we're really thinking it's not really the best fit to place it within the Office of Corporation Counsel, because again, we are the civil lawyers, we're not the criminal lawyers. And so there was a discussion about whether or not a separate authority should be formed. Well, to do that, you've got to have a second governmental entity to join the authority. And so from my understanding, it's looking like the best option would be to form a board for the Office of Public Defender Services, where there would be members of the board elected by, or appointed by, the commission, by the CEO, perhaps by the Third Circuit Court, perhaps not. Those discussions are still ongoing. But I do think that I know Mary Ann Talon is deep in the throes of this and has been speaking with everyone, and the commission should be hearing an update very soon on what the final determination of the best form and the best place to place this new Office of Public Defender Services for Wayne County.
I have a list going, Commissioner Baker McCormick, and then Commissioner Anderson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The Office of Public Defenders, that is a separate entity from I believe it was the neighborhood defenders. We had a lot of debate over that last year. Is this one and the same or 2 different entities?
Yes, ma'am. They are 2 different entities. The Neighborhood Defender Services, which you all have been made aware of, they take about 25% of the criminal cases that need appointed counsel. And so the Office of Public Defender Services would be covering the remaining 75%. And that is generally going to be, as it is, an ongoing list of qualified attorneys that are right now being selected, I believe, by the court. And so what this is going to do is move those services from the court over to the Office of Public Defender Services. So it would still be, attorneys in the area, in the jurisdiction, who are qualified to practice, that want to be placed, and I assume and I'm not a criminal lawyer and I never have been, so I apologize, but I assume, there's some application process, they get placed on a list, and then they get assigned these felony cases as counsel is needed. So to answer your question, those are 2 completely different entities. Neighborhood Public Defender Services has always been known to handle about 25%, and so this is the remaining 75%.
Okay, and as far as the qualifications for the attorneys and or evaluation of current attorneys that may be put into this new group, are you looking at that, or is that another department that addresses that, the hiring and the evaluation of the attorneys?
Well, I believe it would be within the scope of the Office of the Public Defender Services. So we are contemplating that now. We're thinking an ordinance would need to be passed to form a board to handle these types of services, and that if not expressly stated in that ordinance, at least referencing our procurement ordinance to account for that. As you might imagine, there's absolutely no way you could bring each attorney to the full board for approval of these attorneys. It's, I think, similar to what Corporation Counsel does now for our outside counsel. Is we have what we call an RFQ process, where we request qualifications to be sent, and if they pass those qualifications, they essentially get placed on a list. And so I assume it will be somewhat similar to that. But again, once they figure out what the form of this Office of Public Defender Service is going to look like, and they come to you for approval of an ordinance or approval of formation of a board, all of that should be vetted out. And there are discussions now, but I don't know the final conclusions on that.
Okay. And then can you talk about or explain the hierarchy of corporate counsel and how that works?
Yes, ma'am. So the Corporation Counsel is appointed by the CEO, and the commission does have to vote to approve that. So you all did approve James Heath. At some point you approved my appointment as deputy. And underneath the Corporation Counsel is the deputy, that's me. And then underneath us, we have right now 4 different divisions. So we have, by practice area, we have our litigation team, we have our tax/real estate team, we have our municipal team, and we have our labor and employment team. And so on each of those teams, we have a chief attorney and a principal attorney. Those are all appointees. Under that, our lead.
Sorry, you said you have 2 attorneys. Can you repeat the last statement you made?
Yeah, there's, for each division of those different areas of law that I mentioned, they're what we call chief Corporation Counsel attorneys and principal Corporation Counsel attorneys. So those are basically the 2 like highest supervisors within those teams, and those are appointees. And
okay.
underneath
and,
them,
before you go on, before you go on, I just wanted to get who is the chief and principal.
Sure. So for our litigation team, our chief attorney now is Ms. Sue Hamoud. And right now we actually have a principal attorney spot open. Previous to that was Jim Surwick, and he had retired. Sue was promoted to chief. In our labor and employment team, we have Tracy McAllister is our chief, and we have Gwen DeJong is our principal attorney. In our municipal team, we have Nkrumah Johnson-Wynn is our chief, and we have Drew Vandegrift, who was recently promoted to principal for municipal. And for our tax and real estate, we have Jacob Ganem is our chief, and Haris Ahmad is our principal.
Thank you. You can go on. I just wanted to.
That's okay. And then under that, so we consider that management and those positions. And under that, we have what we call assistant corporation counsel positions 1 through 4, and there's also a lead. And those are all covered by the Government Bar Association collective bargaining agreement, which was recently renewed earlier this year.
And when you say 1 through 4, that means there's 4 different attorneys, assistant corporate counsels?
Not necessarily. What that means is their level. So an ACC 1 would mean you're fresh out of law school. ACC 2 might mean you have about 5 years of experience. ACC 3, 10 years of experience, and so on.
Oh, I see. And then who is responsible for hire? You said this is, who hires this, the court assistants?
Well, the corporation counsel does. Myself and
Okay.
James Hughes. Yep. So we'll interview, we'll post for jobs, but the difference being that the chiefs and the PAs are appointees of the CEO, not covered by a collective bargaining agreement. Whereas if you're an ACC 1 through a 4, or what we call a lead attorney position, then you are covered by that collective bargaining agreement. And you have, as you know, certain protections that come along with being included in a union.
Okay, and then my last question has to do with, and I'm still trying to make sure that I understand how the council of the clerk and also the city clerk, as well as the election commission. Can you explain that hierarchy and how that works?
Well, for most elected officials and departments, we have certain attorneys or divisions that are assigned to represent them. So for instance, we have a very skilled and experienced attorney named Janet Anderson Davis, who's been with the county almost 40 years, who represents the county clerk in almost all matters. And she also represents the board of canvassers. So very typically you will see Janet's name on pleadings, you'll see her at meetings. She's got the experience and the background, and she handles those. Some offices also have their own inside counsel that they hire within their budget. For instance, the sheriff's office has a general counsel that you'll see. But most of them will come to corporation counsel for their services.
Okay, but we hire, or the executive appoints the attorneys for the clerk and for the other departments?
Well, yes, the CEO hires and the corporation counsel hire all attorneys that are in the Department of Corporation Counsel. And then within that, we will assign those attorneys to different departments and elected officials based on their background and their experience and their expertise.
Okay, and so for the board of canvassers and the clerk's office, is there a reason why we have the same attorney if we appoint different attorneys? It just seems like it's a conflict of interest to have the same attorney represent those departments. So I'm just wondering, why is that?
Oh, McCormick, you got it. You got it.
That's a great question. I've never actually been faced with that issue. I've never considered that the clerk's office and the board of canvassers were conflicting. I will say that definitely, it's within our right to represent the clerk's office as an elected official. The board of canvassers, I'm not exactly sure of. I'll have to look into that a little bit more and see, perhaps, do they have their own counsel? But I will definitely look into that and get back to you on it.
Can you do that? I know for sure that there's some issues around that, and I just wanted to understand the workings, the overall workings of each department, and see if we can address any conflicts there. Yes, so that was my question. So thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah, I'll look into that and get back to you.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Anderson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to find out, Cheryl, it looks like on your budget, you're going to be you're asking for and receiving roughly, I believe it's another $1 million. So I'm just wondering if you could tell me what does that represent?
Yeah, it actually looks like every dollar of increase that you see over last year is attributable to the Office of Public Defender Services, which is all grant funded money. Because if you look at Corporation Counsel's budget broken apart from Human Relations and broken apart from Office of Public Defender Services, which I don't think is here on your overview. You may have to see like the nitty gritty spreadsheets and accounting documents, but we're actually decreasing by about $500,000 for just Corporation Counsel. So we were asked that question and Huey helped me answer it, which is that it appears that every cent of that increase is attributable to the Office of Public Defender Services, which is grant funded. And I do want to point out as well that both Human Relations and Corporation Counsel are largely chargeback departments. And so I don't believe we draw down from the general fund.
Okay. And where would I find in this how much we're spending on outside counsel? I know there'd been an effort, and the commission, I think, had expressed an interest in trying to reduce the use of outside attorneys. I know there's some expertise that makes it necessary to do that on certain cases, or is there, doesn't look like a breakout specifically on outside attorneys.
So when we hire outside counsel, those costs are charged back to the departments that require them. So for instance, if there is an auto accident that occurs between a DPS salt truck and a resident and we're sued and we hire outside counsel for that, that cost for that outside counsel gets charged back to that department. So I don't believe it would be represented here in this budget. However, I know that when we answer questions of the commission, we provided a list of outside counsel contracts, and we do report that on an annual basis, at least annual, if not more often than that. And so I can definitely check in to see, you know, what's the use of outside counsel? Has it increased? Has it decreased? I can let you know. I know personally, I can tell you that we try to keep things in-house at all costs. The only time we ever want to go outside is if we don't have the expertise, and typically that includes bond counsel, maybe some very complex transactions, and then if there's a conflict. For instance, our labor and employment group handles a lot of litigation from employees or, you know, past employees that say they were wrongfully terminated. And sometimes there's a conflict of interest with our attorneys that handle those cases because they were involved in the investigation of what caused that person to be terminated. And so for those reasons, we will also hire outside counsel. But I can certainly look into the comparison and let you know where we are with that. I believe that, you know, our attorneys that are in corp counsel are definitely skilled enough to be handling a lot of these cases and these matters in-house, and that we do try to keep them in-house as much as possible.
Yeah, I think we're looking at the same thing then, and I think that was the desire of when this has come up before, is reducing the outside costs. But anyway, thanks if you could provide that to, you know.
Yep, I'll make a note now.
Actually, this is Mark Fabo. Commissioner Anderson, it is included in the packet. There's about 6 or 7 pages that discuss each attorney, outside counsel that we've hired and for what purpose. And then on the bottom of page 7 of that, it indicates the amount paid last year, which is approximately $1.2 million. I'll make sure you get a copy of it.
All right, thank you.
That was in the packet that your staff emailed us just prior to this meeting.
Well, then I probably didn't see it.
I believe it was earlier. I believe than today.
Okay.
I see. I do have some, you know, lists of attorneys that are in the department, corp counsel. just trying to find exactly what you're talking about, Mark, but you can.
You could resend that, Mary?
It starts on page 14 of the packet that Terrence sent out on Saturday.
Okay, let me see.
That's our latest packet.
I
Yes.
don't know if our pages are numbered differently, what I have, because I have the first group goes up to 7, and I don't think I even have a 14. You said
Commissioner,
14.
I'll forward the email right now for you.
Okay, great. Thank you.
You're
Thank
welcome.
you.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Anderson, you want to continue?
No, I said thank you. Thank you.
Okay. Commissioner Baker McCormick?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Just had a follow-up question. Would there be a situation where a county attorney would represent commissioners?
Sometimes if our interests are combined, if your commission council thinks it's appropriate, that may happen. Back before there was commission council allocated by charter, the corporation council represented both the commission and the CEO. So once upon a time that was the case. But as you know, you've got a commission council, and she would be the one that would make the decisions of who represents any actions that are charged against the Wayne County Commission or any of the commissioners individually.
So that's no then.
That's not a no. It's a probably not. But I think if there were issues where our interests were aligned, that if there were consent, there could be. It's not against the law. It's not against the rules. But generally, your commission counsel would represent you, or assist in hiring outside counsel to represent you.
Okay, but if this was a personal civil matter, then the corporate counsel would not and should not assist a commissioner. Is that correct?
Well, especially not if it's in your individual capacity. So if a commissioner is sued in their capacity as a commissioner, then of course that kicks in the it's sort of indemnification that would come with being an official, a government employee, and having that sort of coverage. If it were a completely personal issue, then the answer would definitely be no.
Okay, and so that would be in violation of some act related to the use of public funds. Is that correct?
I would believe so, yes.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Felicia, do you want to expand on that?
Through the chair, there have been instances where corporation counsel has represented the commission as a whole or individual commissioner in their official capacities, obviously. It really just depends on what the matter is. So it's a case-by-case determination with regards to how we proceed, but there are options with regards to how we do proceed with legal matters in that sense.
Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Marecki?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Cheryl, just so I can get a handle on this, the Neighborhood Public Defender Services, they actually occupy part of the Guardian building. Is that right?
That's correct.
And now this new group, the Public Defender group, will they be occupying any space, or is that just being put on lists and that type thing?
I think that's still being discussed as well, since we only have one person working for them right now. She is in the Guardian building. I think it's a possibility. There's some room within the Guardian building that we might be able to, rent the space out to the Office of Public Defender Services. Or it's possible that they might look for other, buildings to rent out, considering that the CJC is moving a little ways away. So I will look into that and see if any further discussions on where we're going to house, once all 8 or 9 folks are brought on. but I'm not totally sure. So I'll check. I'll
Okay.
write that down.
Do you know how many people are occupying the Guardian in the neighborhood public defender group?
How many people?
Yes, are in that group.
Gosh. Well, right now I know they're occupying the entire 29th floor.
Okay.
I want to say they recently acquired a little bit more space, maybe a half of another floor. I can't tell you which one. It's got to be at least 40 people, 40 to 50 people. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep. No problem.
Thank you. Anyone else? Alrighty, Cheryl, anything else you need to add?
Madam Chair, can I ask a question? This is Mark Abbo.
Sure, Mr. Abel.
No, thank you. Cheryl, regarding the Public Defender's Office, should we be expecting a budget adjustment, or will that be done through a technical amendment before the budget is approved, moving the monies out of Corporation Council?
I think you'll probably get a budget adjustment, but if there's someone from M&B on that can answer this question for me a little bit better. I know there was recently, in order to get this money moved in to the budget at all, M&B requested that a business unit be added, and it sparked a whole stream of questions about whether or not, Corporation Council needed a new reorg for its division and whether there'd be a reorg plan. And that was when it really became clear that, it might not be appropriate to put this office within Corporation Council, since it's a criminal function and Corporation Council is civil. And so I would assume there will be a budget adjustment. There's going to have to be some things that the commission will need to approve with regard to structuring their budget and where it's going to end up.
Okay, and then regarding the discussion that Commissioner Anderson had, you responded with some of our queries saying that there's a hiring freeze, and that coupled with the quantity of outside counsel. Could you tell me, has there been a significant amount of turnover in Corporation Counsel, and couple that with the response to how competitive our salaries been regarding the attorneys that we have on staff?
Okay. Yes, there was a lot. We had quite a few retirements in Corporation Counsel, and then we had a few lower level attorneys that decided to leave our office as well. I will say that I had asked our HR department staff to do a research on, what is the going rate for a government attorney. And I do believe that many of our levels, many of them being included in the union contract, the GBA contract, do seem low average. And so it's not the easiest thing to hire, but then in addition, COVID happened and now we're on a hiring freeze. So I can tell you that now also, and we had some layoffs as well. We lost support staff in a layoff, or furlough rather. And there are several positions that we have needed to fill that we haven't been able to move forward with because of the hiring freeze that we're currently on. So our staff are working at a very high capacity right now. All of our attorneys are very busy, and we do need to hire some more attorneys.
Have you had difficulty? Have you had difficulty hiring to fill the positions pre-COVID?
I wouldn't necessarily say that the difficulty is so much because of the salaries. The difficulty is more in the process. It takes a long time to get someone hired, and by the time you get them to the end, they're like, well, I got a different job offer. You took too long to come back to me. So personally, I think that, and that's just really an operational thing that I think HR and the departments maybe need to work on. Obviously, we can't do anything right now with the freezes, but that's been, I think, our most significant problem is we'll have people that are interested, we'll interview them, and then when we finally get around to having everything ready to actually hire the person, they're like, it's been 6 weeks. I got 4 other job offers, and I'm going to take these other ones instead. So that's really been the problem we've had in Corporation Counsel.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Madam Chair, could I ask Cheryl, this is Mareki.
Sure.
So Cheryl, piggybacking on that, is there, I mean, have people looked into how we can expedite the process for some of these positions? Because I totally get that. When you apply for a job, you're not just going to bank on Wayne County hiring you.
Yeah.
And I realize there's a freeze right now, but for the future.
I don't know if that's been specifically addressed. You know, there's just all these processes you have to go through in other departments.
Sorry.
It's okay. And then with budget and so it, you know, I'm going to write it down and hope that I can maybe spearhead that lead once we get back to normal, you know, God willing that we get back to normal and we can start hiring people again. I see this across the board in many things that we do here at the county. And I understand there's a reason for it, because we're government, we need checks and balances. We need people, you know, we need 8 people looking at the same thing to make sure there's not a mistake being made. But that just really slows everything down. And in the real world, it's hard to secure, you know, good talent that way. So I agree with you. I'd love to work with HR and all the other departments that we have to work with to get these things to move along a little bit more quickly.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Thank you. Any other commissioners? How about staff? Okay. Well, thank you for your presentation, and we'll go on to the next. Mark, do you want to set the table?
No, other than to ask staff of senior services to join us.
Kamal Keparu is here, Finance Director for the Department of Senior Services. I'll start it off, and me and Ms. Whitmore most likely will do a little tag team. Overall, the budget for senior citizens is our status quo. The only difference you will see, and it'll be in a couple areas. One, we're estimating about a 10% decrease in charges, fees, and fines. That's where we collect our donations. And of course, due to the pandemic, we just did a conservative estimate that we're going to have reduction in donations. Of course, we'll keep you posted on that. The other area that's reduced is general fund. And the general fund is only reduced because we are maximizing the use of the CARES fund, the CARES Act funding. And I'm gonna talk about this also when we get to Health, Human, and Veteran Services. But the overall goal is to maximize our grants. And in this department, we do have some federal grants, but fortunately we have a good portion of general fund where we was able to use some CARES Act funding. The total CARES Act funding that's being allocated to this department is about $128,000. So if you look at the operating transfer in, you see $104,000, and then you see allocation from general fund, $16,000. Basically, those two comes out to the credit that we're receiving from the CARES Act funding. The only other thing that I will highlight is that Ms. Whitmore and myself have been talking with the Senior Alliance, I won't say for the last couple of months, to get an increase in our federal grant. We noticed when COVID started, food costs did increase by approximately, I want to say about 65 cents. And so we are negotiating with the Senior Alliance to get an increase in our grant. So as of today, you don't see it on this document because we don't have a final document. I'm sorry, did somebody say something? Okay, so you don't see it, but look forward to seeing it. We'll keep you posted on that. I think that's the only thing I wanted to highlight now. Ms. Whitmore, did you have anything to add? You on mute?
No, thank you, Mr. Caparu. Having some difficulty with my signal. Please forgive me. Can you hear me now?
We can hear you now. We can't hear you now.
Thank you so much for your patience.
Okay.
My apologies for the technical challenge.
Okay.
To
No.
highlight and thank.
You're fading in and out.
Can you hear me? Okay.
Did we lose you?
Still there? I'll give her a second. If she don't, I can call her on the three-way to see if I can get her that way.
Okay.
He's joining the meeting again via Zoom.
Okay.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
I apologize. Mr. Kepperu gave a great overview of our budgetary status for our department. I want to thank the commission for the support that we received during this pandemic. And I want to also take a moment to thank a member of our team who is on the line, Miss Maisha Haddon. She's one of our department managers there in senior services, and together our team, we've had to work to reconfigure the delivery model for our program due to COVID. You know, we used to be a daily hot food program, but due to the pandemic, we've had to transfer to a weekly frozen service, and we had to cease our congregate meal program in its previous format. Now, starting as of April 13th, we are a drive-up congregate meal, and we have the virtual senior services events. Many of you have shared those events with your constituents across the county, and we've had an opportunity to connect with our older adults, especially during this very isolating time. We realize that we're going to have to leverage the opportunity before us to continue to increase our efficiencies and find ways to make service improvements, as well as continue to provide stable and vital nutrition to our older adults during this pandemic, because it's so important. So if you have any questions for me, I'd take them now. But again, thank the commission for your support during this pandemic, especially.
Thank you. Any members wishing to ask questions? Commissioner Anderson?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mrs. Whitmore Davis, I just wanted to ask you, on your budget, are we going to be expending the same amount for Meals on Wheels then? Continuation at the same funding level or higher?
When you say funding level, you're referring, Commissioner, to the general fund or what we receive from the TSA?
Total, I guess. I'm looking at what are we going to have the same amount of funding from the general fund as well as other sources to continue to keep the program whole?
Well, our general fund contribution is 1.5 million, and Mr. Kepperu, please correct me if I'm mistaken, that is almost the same as it was in the past fiscal year?
Yes, you are correct. And Commissioner, it's the same as last year. The only difference is the increase in costs because of COVID. So you don't see that now because we hadn't finished you see it in the food area, but you don't see the increase in the federal funding because we haven't got the final notice from the Senior Alliance. But overall, the units that we serve and all that is around the same. It's just the cost of food went up.
Okay.
Did that answer your
Rush,
question?
whoever you are.
Yes, I think so. I'm just trying to determine, how much that variance could be. But it sounds like you're still waiting to get the final numbers from Senior Alliance, correct?
Yes, and when we looked at it, it was between 300,000 and 500,000 additional revenue, and of course the expenditures. Oh, and thank you for asking that question, for pushing for clarity. Another thing that's unknown is that Trio, who we purchase our food from, gave us a fixed rate until September the 30th. So their food costs went up about 65 cents. And so we went to TSA to increase us the same amount to match. But Trio is saying they locked us in until September the 30th. So we may have to go back and talk with Trio, if the pandemic continues and so forth and so on. If Trio decide to go above the 65%, we got more work to do, to say the least. So right now, we're comfortable with the numbers we're presenting. But again, things will change after October the 1st.
Maybe, Madam Chair, I'm not sure if there's a way to get some COVID dollars going into that, care dollars for this, because it's our increased costs and to deliver those meals may be attributable certainly to the COVID virus.
I can add to that, Commissioner. What's happening, you do see some CARES funding going in from the county, but that was part of our discussion with the Senior Alliance, because we know they received some CARES money or COVID money directly. And so since we found that out, we're asking them, hey, the cost increased because of COVID. We want to pass that increased cost over to them. So right now, and that's what's taking, I believe they're vetting it themselves. So hopefully they would grant us that increase. So we will receive an additional funding from the federal grant. Now, mind you, I think I talked about it earlier, but maximizing our grants, we want to be not just diligent, but want to watch that we're not getting paid twice for the same services. So with TSA, we want to get the extra money to cover the food costs. And then what we're doing in the county, we're using the CARES Act money to offset some of the labor costs. Because I believe Ms. Whitmore talked with a few of Guidehouse, who's working with us closely on this, and they asked her how much of her time that she's allocated to COVID-related activities, and that's what we're working on also. So it's like we're working basically two streams.
Mr. Kepperu, thank you. Commissioner Anderson, there was a chat message that just popped in while you were speaking regarding the $25,000 that we received from the TSA, and I'd like to give a little clarity to that. That was through Meals on Wheels of America. Unfortunately, we were not a member of Meals on Wheels of America, so we did not receive that notification. But in this dialogue that Mr. Kepperu is speaking of, they brought forward an opportunity for us to apply for a $25,000 grant. Working with my staff, we decided that we would offer the Halal Meals program as a good candidate because it was a national program. And as you are aware, we are the only program in the state of Michigan with a halal meal program for older adults. So we felt it would be well suited to win this $25,000 grant from Meals on Wheels of America. And we were successful in that application. So that $25,000 that was referenced in the chat, that is from a competitive grant that we applied through the TSA's membership. Luckily for us, as of last month, we are now members of Meals on Wheels, but at the time when that grant was offered, we were not members, so we could not apply directly.
Thank you for that. Anyone else? So what we're hoping to see is that everyone who needs a meal will be offered a meal. Do we have a waiting list right now?
Madam Chair, no, we do not, and we do not turn anyone away. And please note that due to CARES Act legislation, anyone over the age of 60, whether they have a health challenge or otherwise, is eligible for the Meals on Wheels program, and that's through the CARES legislation. So we have not turned anyone away, and as a result of that, we've had uptick of probably about 800 additional new folks on our service role due to joining us through the CARES Act eligibility.
Do we have a way to go out for additional information and see if someone else could give us food a little bit cheaper if this is 65 cents on the uptick from this company?
Great question. In working with my managers, our COO, she had me talk with Aaron Wagner to try to find if there are other sources who have opportunity to bid on this service, because it is going up. And again, nationally, the cost of food for Meals on Wheels program is going up and becoming more scarce, especially frozen meals. But my team and myself, we are putting our heads together and working with TRIO to see how we can provide an opportunity for more fresh food that will bring the cost down, as well as provide close to the food that our older adults used to receive, but still keeping our volunteers safe. I want to attribute that to the great training that we've received from the health department, as well as my team working with our out in the field team on making sure that our volunteers are very well aware of COVID precautions, and knock on wood, and that the Lord hears it, we have not had any problems with potential exposures since March 13th, when we all entered into this new reality.
That is really great news. Well, thank you for that. We're on the same page, thinking that some people may try to use this as a mechanism to make a little more money, but I do know that food has gone up.
Yes.
And it just depends on where you shop and what you shop for as to how much. So,
Yes.
Sounds good. Anything from committee members or staff?
Madam Chair, Commissioner
Yes.
Baker McCormick, thank you. Just wanted to ask about the volunteers. I know you were having some issues with the decline of volunteers. How is that going?
Thank you, Commissioner McCormick, Baker McCormick. Yes, we had at least about a 25% drop. In August, my team and I did a survey of our volunteer corps, and to find out what their thoughts were in regards to continuing to serve. We wanted to see if there was a will of the body of volunteers to perhaps even try to do a second day. There was not a large response in regards to that, but the volunteers that did respond, we sent out 840 surveys, and about 500 returned, which is pretty good. And they still are continue to trickle in, but the corpus response was that about 70% are willing to only do the one day in our current environment. but they are concerned about their health. And as you and I have talked about, our volunteer base, the average age of a Wayne County Senior Services volunteer is about 67 years old, which puts them in the unfortunate sweet spot of COVID, and they have to be very careful.
Okay, and when you talk about the one day, are you saying that there's one day a week that each volunteer delivers meals, or what do you mean by one day?
Yes, ma'am. We have transfigured our program from a daily service to one day a week. We serve on Mondays today. We serve today because Monday was the holiday. We have a drive up and meal service on one day, and they receive 5 meals for that week.
And that's at one time? Is that what you're
Yes.
saying? Okay.
Yes, on one day, on a Monday, usually starting around 9, ending at the latest delivery about 12:30.
Thank you. I just wanted to make sure everyone understood that it's only one day.
Yes,
Okay,
ma'am.
thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
I have a question, please.
Yes, Chair Bell.
Yes, hello everyone. Just a quick question, and I apologize if it was already asked. I had to step away for a moment. But with the FTEs, and this is a question to Corp Counsel too, if they're still there, they may have gone. But the number that you have listed here for the senior area is 9. Are all of those 9 filled, or are some of those vacancies?
Thank you,
Cheryl.
Chairwoman.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Okay, thank you, Chair. Chairwoman Bell, hello this afternoon. Yes, of the 9, we have 1 open that's unfilled, but the remainder of them are filled. The 8 are filled.
Okay, thank you. And I'm sorry if you already addressed that. Thank you.
No, I didn't, ma'am. No, I didn't.
Okay, thank you so
And
much.
I want to just add that 1 person resigned during COVID. That's how we have that 1 opening. They resigned.
And is there plans to replace that person, that position?
Yes, that person.
Okay. And if you don't mind, can you give the, what type of position was it? Was it a clerical? Was it a group leader? Was it?
Yes, it was a clerical.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? I hear none. Well, thank you for your presentation. Keep up the good work. And we're so glad that our seniors are in good hands. Thank you.
Thank you for your support. Thank you, ma'am.
Next item, Madam Clerk.
Item D, such other matters as may be properly submitted before the committee.
I do not have anything. Any committee members have anything that you would like to discuss at this time under such other matters? Mark, just give us a little bit when we're meeting next, or Mary.
Then, Madam Chair, the next meeting will be September 17th. It'll be Register of Deeds, Third Circuit Court, and the clerk, although I believe that that's changing, we will have the treasurer on that day rather than the clerk. They're switching spots. That'll give staff an opportunity to catch up and get questions and responses to all the matters regarding the budget that they've queried.
Okay, thank you. To staff, we really appreciate all this work that you do to prepare us for each of our meetings. I know I did receive my agenda on Saturday, so you are working every day, and we appreciate you and all the hard work. So we are prepared for our meetings. Your work is not going unnoticed. Thank you, Mark. You have a good team.
I have a great team.
Madam Chair,
Yes, Commissioner
Uh,
Martha G. Scott.
yes, I would like to ask him, when would the next meeting be after the 17th?
18th.
September 21st.
September 21st. Would that be the last?
Can you run through real quick as to our next meeting, our meetings following this one?
Sure, the 17th, or I'm sorry, the 21st is, that would be the clerk, HHVS, prosecuting attorney. The 21st will be retirement and probate. 23rd, Wednesday, will be DPS, and we will be discussing budget instructions at that point in time. We're hoping to get those up before then so everybody can review them. The 24th will be an approval date within Ways and Means, and then we're hoping to have final approval on the 29th of September, which is Tuesday.
Okay. So nothing between the 24th and the 29th. Okay. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
And we're supposed to have a cow after that, and then a special committee of the whole, or full board, committee of the whole, and then full board. Following that before October 1st.
And this is Alicia. And what, because if you look at the calendar, our first full board is October 1st, and that's Thursday. So that week is going to be rather busy because we'll either have the committee of the whole and then the special budget meeting on the same day, or we'll have the committee of the whole on the 29th, the special budget meeting on the 30th, and then our regular scheduled full board on the next day, which is October 1st. So it's a little fluid, but those are the 3 days that, or the 2 days, the 29th, possibly the 30th, that we're looking at to have a special board meeting to approve the budget. And then we go right into the regular scheduled board meeting on October 1st.
Okay. Thank you.
Madam Chair,
Yes,
the meeting on the 17th, that's at 12 noon, correct?
No, that's at 1 o'clock.
Oh, at 1 o'clock, okay. I'm glad I asked, okay.
do we need to resend the schedule, members?
Hello, Chair. This is Terrence. A revised schedule will be going out after the meeting due to the change of the clerk and the treasurer.
Okay, thank you. Committee members, then take note and
Okay.
adjust our schedule.
All right.
And I'm sorry, one more thing.
Sure.
This is to Terrence. Terrence, the prosecutor may want to change her schedule as well. So before you send out the revised version, maybe get her suggested date if she needs to change, so that you only have to send out a revision once.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anything else by any commissioners? Okay, then we'll go on to the next item on the agenda. Madam Clerk,
Item E, public comments.
would you please unmute everyone and let me know when that's done?
Everyone has been unmuted, and I have received no emails.
Okay, we have not received any communications. Anyone from the public wishing to comment at this time? Anyone from the public wishing to comment at this time? I hear none, but I'll ask one more time. Anyone from the public wishing to comment? I hear none. Next item.
Item F, adjournment.
So move.
Support.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carries. We'll see you next time. Be
Thank you.
safe.
See ya.